Today we're talking all about home inspections. What is a home inspection? How much do they cost? How long do they take? What to do if something shows up that's bad on the home inspection, and why you should definitely be getting a home inspection anytime you buy a property. What is going on, everyone? If you're new here, my name is Tiessen with Hubbell Real Estate here on the Central Coast. And on this channel, we talk about everything Central Coast related, everything real estate related. But in today's video, we're going to be talking specifically about home inspections. Let's start with why home inspections are so important. Anytime you're buying a house, as everybody knows, it's one of the biggest financial decisions you will make in your entire life. And by hiring a home inspector, what you are doing is giving yourself peace of mind. You're making sure you are buying a solid investment property. You're making sure that you're not going to buy a money trap that's going to cost you, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 or even more in repairs and just damaged goods. So a home inspection is very necessary. It's something we recommend for every single client because it's just, for the amount of money, there's not much more you can do that's going to be a better bang for your buck. So jumping right into that, how much does a home inspection cost? Here on the Central Coast, they range anywhere from $400 to $600. Typically, the buyer will pay for the home inspection, and you typically pay when the home inspection is completed. So, in some areas, it's not uncommon for the home inspector to be paid out of escrow fees at the end of the transaction. But for a home inspector, from their perspective, if you think about it, if an escrow falls through, they've now done 2, 3, 4 hours worth of work and they don't get paid, or they have to chase down the buyer to actually get their money. So most of them are going to want to get paid right up front when the home inspection is done. Speaking of getting paid up front when it's done, if you are a buyer and you want to be there with the home inspector, a lot of times they are completely okay with that. They will typically run 2 to 3 hours, and their entire job is to go through everything in that property. It's to find every single thing that's wrong that could cause you to not want to buy the property. So they will mark everything from chip paint. They check every single electrical outlet. They'll check every light. They check the heater. They check the air conditioning. They check the roof, the foundation. They look for dry rot. They look for every single thing that could be wrong with that property. And when looking, it's going to be pretty substantial. There's always stuff to find in a property. And even if this is a brand new property, you are going to have a lengthy home inspection report. As far as the report goes, when you see this report at the end of their time at the property, they'll usually be able to deliver it within an hour or two, maybe a few hours after completing the home inspection. That's because they're running through the property usually with like an iPad or some sort of tablet where they're checking things off, they're writing notes as they're going, so they are compiling the report as they go. When you get this report at the end, it's going to be anywhere from 60 to maybe even 80 pages long, and that is completely normal. Don't be surprised when you find all these things that are quote unquote wrong with the property. Again, their job is to find every single thing wrong with that property. That way you can make an informed decision on whether or not you want to go ahead and buy it. Next, we are going to talk about kind of the common repairs, the fixes, and the things that they find wrong in those properties. If you guys are looking for a home here on the Central Coast, do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm uploading videos every week now to highlight the Central Coast, highlight different processes in the real estate transaction to keep you, the buyer, or you, the seller, more informed. So let's talk about the repairs, the faults of the property that you're going to find in this inspection report. Generally speaking, they're kind of broken into two main categories. The first is going to be health and safety. Those ones are very important. And then the other category is going to be kind of cosmetic, things that maybe should be fixed, you might want fixed, but aren't necessarily, not so important to actually you getting the property. They might be to you individually, but generally speaking, these are things that are going to be easier to fix, not going to cause serious problems. So first, let's talk about health and safety. On the inspection, they're going to look for things like electrical problems. They're going to test every single outlet. They're going to look for covers on the panels outside. They're going to make sure that there's not fire hazards. They're going to make sure there's not electrical hazards present in the house. Similarly, they're going to look for plumbing issues. They're not going to snake the lines, but they want to make sure that there's not clogging in toilets. They're going to make sure that there's good drainage, both inside the house and outside the house, so that there's not going to be health and safety issues that come up in the future. The other thing they're going to be looking for, is wood destroying organisms. So that's mostly termites in this area. They want to make sure that you're not buying a house that has termites eating all of the studs out of the garage. So health and safety is very important. Another big one is going to be smoke detectors. They're going to make sure smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors are all working in good condition. Some of these things are local ordinances as well. So they're going to look for example, low flow toilet fixtures, low flow sinks and shower heads. Those aren't necessarily health and safety, but they are local ordinances to where you are supposed to have things like the low flow toilets hooked up before the sale of the property. The next kind of big section is just going to be all of the common stuff. So they're going to call out, fixes on like paint patches. They're going to call out, minor leaks. So one of the things, for example, that they'll do is they'll turn on the sink and they'll go do some other stuff, and they'll come back in a few minutes and look under the sink. And if there's some drips, they're going to call that out. They want to make sure that you know about all those leaks. So those type of things, they're going to look at the roof. They're going to make sure that you have a decent amount of roof life left, or at least give you an idea of how much they estimate is left on the roof, which is, again, a very important subject, but it's not necessarily a health and safety issue. They're going to talk about septic tanks if you have septic tanks. They're going to, again, look at termite stuff. So roof, termites, leaky, small leaks, things like that, those are all more common. They're not necessarily going to be things that are deal breakers for you, but they may be. So they are things that do get called out on that inspection report. After we've looked through the inspection report, you've gone over it with your agent, you've come up with some ideas of what is okay with you, what's not okay. You're really going to have three choices. The first choice is to buy the property as is. It's not to ask for any repairs, any credits to the property. The next choice is to ask for repairs or credits. And the third choice is to simply cancel the contract and walk away. Now, let's run through just a little bit of each of those scenarios. As is pretty straightforward, so I'm not really going to cover that. But if you're asking for repairs, what you're going to do is a request for repairs. Now, a request for repairs, you're going to submit a formal request to the seller to do certain repairs on the property. The seller does have the choice. They can decline. They could counter back. They can say, hey, we'll do these and these repairs, but not these ones. Or they can just say, we're not going to do anything at all. So, it is a back and forth. It's a negotiation as far as repairs go. You also have the option to ask for a credit. So a good situation, why you might ask for a credit is, let's say it's some termite work and you just don't want the bank to even bring up the termite work in the loan application, in the underwriting of the loan. You might ask for a credit for repairs instead of asking for a request for repairs, because once you ask for the request, once you request that specific repair, that is going in the file, and everybody that's involved in the file is going to know that that repair needs to be done. So you might ask for a credit to keep it more between the buyers and the sellers. Another reason to ask for a credit, big reason, is let's say you have yourself, you're handy, you got a brother-in-law, you got a cousin that's handy, or a contractor or something like that that's handy at doing some of these repairs that could do them for you for a lot cheaper. So you get a bid on the repairs. Let's say it's going to be $2,000, but your brother-in-law says, hey, I could do that. It's only a few $100s worth of materials. I'll do it for you for $500. So you might ask for a credit of $2,000, show the bid, right? It's going to cost me $2,000 to fix it. Please credit us at the close. But then when it closes and everything's said and done, you bring your brother-in-law in to do it for $500, and in theory, you've saved $1,500. That is an option. That's something that a lot of people do as well. So let's talk about just walking away, canceling the contract. If there's repairs that you just don't feel comfortable with anymore, let's say it's, hey, this roof is shot. The roof's got 2 years left on it, and there's already leaks inside there. There's mold inside the attic. This is just not something that I even want to deal with. I don't want to go through the hassle of even asking for or waiting for it to get done. So I just want to cancel the contract altogether. You do have that option as long as you haven't released your contingencies on your inspection. Which brings us to the next question. How long do you have to back out of the contract or have these repairs made? and that is completely negotiable. It depends on the contract. The standard in California, the standard inspection period is 17 days. So, obviously you want to have your inspection done as soon as possible. That way, let's say you're able to get it done in a week, you have, a couple weeks or a week and a half to make decisions on what you want to do. But as long as you're within that contingency period, or you still have your contingency in place, you do have the option to back out. Now, let's say you're on day 17, day 18, day 19, and you haven't made a decision yet, but you haven't released your contingencies. Just because you've passed that day in your contract does not mean that you lose that ability to use that contingency. As long as the other agent hasn't sent a notice to perform, which gives you an additional 2 days, as long as they haven't sent you a notice to perform, you still have until you release your contingency to get out of the contract. So there is, a window. There's the contract, if you're playing directly by the contract, straight into the contract, but there's also some gray area if you guys haven't necessarily been playing exactly by the dates in the contract. Let's talk about some negotiation techniques when negotiating for repairs or credits. There's a few things that are kind of important to just kind of get in line first. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure exactly where you stand. You want to know what is a deal breaker for you, what you are willing to budge on, and what's just kind of bonus. So let's say, it needs a new roof. The house needs a new roof. It's going to cost you 15 grand. And you say, hey, if I don't get all of this 15 grand, I got to walk away. That is a clear position that you need to be clear on beforehand. Maybe you're willing to say, hey, I'll pay up to $10,000. The seller will pay $5,000. But knowing where you can move and where you're steadfast in your positions is very important. It's the very first step in negotiations. The second step to get clear on is you want to try to get as much intel on the sellers as well, or on the other party as well. So if you had a good agent, your agent should be doing this throughout the entire transaction. From the very first contact, you should be trying to gain information on the other party to use to your advantage. That is something that I am very good at, just as a little bit of a side note, but that is something that I don't see a lot of agents doing. That is very important. It's just to understand, not just to use it for your client's advantage or my client's advantage, but to make sure that the transaction goes through as planned. When you're writing an offer and there's lots of people offering on a property, it's good to know what's important to the seller so that you can write a strong offer. Maybe money is not the most important thing. Maybe timelines are the most important thing. Or, maybe being able to stay for a week after the fact, after the sale of property is an important thing. So, gaining intelligence, gaining information on the other party is very important in the negotiation as well. The next thing is to make sure you have a good cost for all the repairs. What are all of these things going to cost me? Get bids. You can get multiple bids if you want. This is all part of the inspection process, but make sure you have a cost breakdown of what all these fixes that you need done are going to cost you. The next thing to do is to weigh all your options, right? It's to look at, again, your standing, the intelligence on the other people, the cost, and kind of weigh, what is realistic and what is not when asking for repairs. And the last tip I have for negotiations is to use both logic and emotion. You're going to use all of these previous things we talked about to build a case for your client, or for my client in this case. So, for example, what you could do is, let's say there's health and safety issues. I had a client where we were buying a property and there was grounding issues with some of the electrical boxes. There was an electrical switch safety hazard in the garage, and there was electrical panel problems. There wasn't a cover on the panel. And when I talk to the other agents, I say, hey, we really want to get this property. They love the property, but there are some safety issues. My client has a small family, young kids. They don't want the kids to be at risk. He doesn't want to be at risk when he's trying to fix this stuff. So we'd really like these health and safety. We'd like these electrical issues taken care of, and we'd be happy to move forward the transaction if we can get these taken care of. The agent was able to get the client to take care of those problems for us, and we were able to close on the transaction. So using both logic, saying, hey, this is only going to cost this much. We really want this transaction to go forward. You're already 3 weeks in. You want to put the house back on the market. And combining that with the emotional, pulling on those heartstrings a little bit, can really help you build a strong case when you're negotiating. One last time, guys, my name is Christian Tiessen. I'm with Hubbell Real Estate. And if you are interested in real estate here on the Central Coast, feel free to reach out. My number is 805-459-9834, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all very soon.